Hi, this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase, and I have another wonderful program for this fall season, something to keep on the calendar and to get you up and running around. We have lots of stuff that's going on in New England in the fall, not only just looking at the leaves, but some other important kinds of events. And I have on my guest. My guest is someone who I know for several years. This is a Renaissance woman. Not only is she involved in historic preservation, which is very important in New England, we should not forget that. We've been around for lots of hundreds of years, so we need to respect that. But she is an author. She has written lots of books. She is someone who makes up games. So she is a wonderful guest. She has lots of stories to tell. Roberta, it is my pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you, Harriet. It's nice to be here.
So tell us what you're up to right now.
Well, we're up to a lot of things. I could tell you, I'll talk about it later, but I have a new game that's coming out. And we have some of my books and games that we sell thousands of these. So they're always popular, well, particularly in Rhode Island, but we have some that are appealing to people from nearby Connecticut or actually almost anywhere in the United States. What we're doing at the Armory is we're hosting a number of events. We've got just a boodle of events. We'll talk more about those in a minute. But the museum, we have people come in, hundreds and hundreds of people come through the museum. And the museum is free to tour. We're open Mondays and Thursdays, 9 to 4, and people love it. We had people this morning from New Jersey, a couple, and he's former Coast Guard, so we're taking him around downstairs, and there's a lot of more military downstairs. Then we went upstairs, and we have a lot of community up there, community memories, but we also have Coast Guard Corner up there, so he was very pleased to see that, since he was former Coast Guard. The Armory just hosted Friday night the Warm Center's fundraiser, which was outstanding. They had a scrumptious meal, and they had all sorts of fun. It was a very, very festive evening. Younger folks, we like to see different generations come in too. We had the Boy Scouts in a couple of weeks ago for their recruiting, Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts for recruiting. And they come every September to do that, so we're glad to have them come. Almost everybody seems to have been there, particularly we get brides, we get a number of weddings and wedding receptions. I think it was last January we had a wedding and reception in the Armory. The fellow was going off he was being assigned by the military to another place in the United States. And so they decided to marry and then just be together down there. So that was lovely.
Sweet, that's sweet.
Then
that drill, what do you call that? A drill
hall.
Drill hall.
Or drill shed.
Okay.
Either one.
Big, beautiful.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Maple floors,
200 people?
35-foot ceilings, plenty of lights. We have the big lights for the events in the day, and then we have the sort of the romantic lighting for the evening events. We have HVAC, so we're cool and warm both when we need to be. It's really, I mean, it had that beautiful maple floor. It was built in 1901, and they really knew how to make things quite nice. Now, granted, it was a military building, so they didn't get fancy-dancy with it because it wasn't supposed to be pretty.
Right.
It's a very masculine building, but you can make it look very feminine.
It's also the home of the Westerly Band.
It is. They were formed in 1852, and they were America's oldest active community band. And we're delighted to have them. They have their band room upstairs on the second floor, and they also have they have a storage room upstairs, which they're redesigning right now. They've raised some funds, and because they have a lot of music. You can imagine all the band scores that they would have over the years.
And they usually perform several times during the course of the year, and at least a couple of times during the summer in Wilcox Park. Wonderful, wonderful band, and it's open to amateurs. So that's
And they will train. They often train people who have once played, who haven't played for a while, and they will give them lessons and try to get them up to snuff, and that's usually successful. So they have a Christmas concert every year at the Westerly Armory, and that's I think December 11th. It's a Sunday. And that's at
that's
2
a
o'clock.
thrilling thing because there's what, 50, 70? There's a lot of musicians. They fill up the entire stage area.
Yeah, they usually do very well. They range in age from 14 through 84, I think, which I love.
Yes, yes. It's a wonderful compliment to like the chorus of Westerly. You have the Westerly band. I mean, just wonderful compliments to one another. Great community activities. I mean, this, for a little town, Westerly has unbelievable opportunities for people to perform, dance, sing, play an instrument.
It can't go wrong. No, Westerly, because it's so isolated almost. My father, who was once on the town council, said, so maybe we should build a wall around it because it can pretty much exist by itself because it's got all the entertainment you need.
Right, right.
And all, you know, you have all the churches, all the entertainment, all the food markets, and so on. Yeah, I think it'd probably be fun. I spend some time trying to get people to come north because I live in Warwick, and it's nice that people see more of Rhode Island because they're more Connecticut oriented, and that's fine too because I'm a Westerly born and bred person, and we spend a lot of time in Connecticut. But you know, there's a lot to see in Rhode Island. So, and I think people don't realize how much we have there. So I'd like to expand on that. That's why I do the books and games, to get Rhode Island known.
Right, exactly. So tell us what got you interested in being part of the Westerly Armory, that it became something important to you enough that you've helped raise all this money to really keep that building just a public asset.
Well, okay, to shorten, I've been involved with a group that supports the Garden Reserve, okay? I've been in it since 1986, so I've been in there a long time. Along the way, we've had different, we're volunteers, but we have different obligations. And one of them is to brief the Garden Reserve on their rights. When they come back, they're entitled to the same job or greater, and so on. So you go through that whole list. Okay, fine. So no one would go to Westerly. I was doing 3 Coast Guard units at the time. Most of the other members were only doing 1 brief a year. I was doing the 3 Coast Guard units, Narragansett, East Providence, Newport, okay? But no one would go to Westerly. It would just seem too far. So to do the 169th Military Police at the Westerly Armory, so the National Guard. So I said, well, all right, I'll do it. So I went down, and I was I'd been in there when I was a young thing. I went to the antique shows, the poultry shows there. I really enjoyed being at the Armory, and I hadn't been in there really for many, many years. So it was not in good condition, shall we say. So I thought, wow, you know, this building represents sacrifices made for our freedom. This is like a hallmark of what we should really honor. We are lucky to be free. I will restore you, I said to the Armory. And so I started. And well, I'm still not very good at it. I've gotten better, but I'm still not really good at it. But the important thing about the Armory is that it has 17 historic brothers in Rhode Island, brother armories. And I wrote the book on the historic armories of Rhode Island.
Yes.
And I do a little booklet on it too. And I think it's important. I don't know, there's something more important about this building than, say, the Newport mansions, which I also like, by the way. I do. And I appreciate those. They have a different kind of value.
Right, right.
But I think we need to sort of acknowledge something that really made those possible when you think about it. So so I decided to, we got volunteers together, and we've been kind of rolling ever since. We're still kind of very, low-key and so forth. We have a board that's composed of people that are average, everyday people. They're not, high rollers or whatever one wants to call them.
Right.
But they're very interested in the building and what it stands for, and they offer to help. So whereas they can't give thousands of dollars in money, they give lots of us hours in time, and they're very dedicated, and they really impress me. We always have someone young on our board too. We have I think she's 15 now.
Wow.
Ailish McLaughlin, and she's just adorable, and we love having her. But we've had a high school student on the board for years.
Okay.
And we think that's important to kind of bring in new generations. Because remember, Harriet, during I think it was the 80s, about the mid-80s, when we went into the fire codes, the military could be at the Armory, but the rest they couldn't let the public in.
Oh,
they used to
okay.
let the public in for dances and events, but they couldn't at that time. So that left us with a generation and a half who've never really been in the Armory.
Right, right.
So, a lot of those people on Friday night's Warm Center are the generation that doesn't know the Armory, and they were really surprised, I think, to see it. We were just kind of cleaning up this morning a little bit. They came in to pick up some things, and the young lady running it said, people asked, wow, this is really nice. How much does it cost to rent this? And I said, well, the thing is, too, you want to look at the museum. Because I said,
yes.
I bet you haven't been. And then her husband came over, and she said we should come to the museum. I said, it's free we don't charge for tours.
Right.
So come, and we'd love to, because there's community memories here.
Yeah. Oh,
It's not
there's
just
a whole
military.
yes. There's
Yeah.
a whole corner with nothing but what was like and beautiful dresses and clothing. Yes, it's just there's something for everyone.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. It's a wrong thing to think it's only about the military. It is not.
It's hard to get that out of people because it's an armory, and when you're outside the armory looking in, it's not a welcoming building because it's not meant to be.
Right, right.
So, and we use the little side door for everyday purposes. We open the big doors for events and so on. But yeah, but people are very welcome, and I think they're really surprised at what they see and very pleased.
Oh, and you should be. Is it still have a military purpose at this time?
No,
no.
no. The National Guard left in '96.
Okay.
And so the town of Westerly owns it officially. They bought it for $1 from the state.
Oh, okay.
And my group has basically a 100-year lease to rent, run it and restore it. We rent it for $1 a year, and we send it in every year,
Right.
faithfully. In recent years, the town has helped us a bit, which we really appreciate.
Right.
It eases that burden because we can put more into restoration, because we hope to open the cellar, the ground level, which has 14-foot ceilings and windows. So it will be nice when it's all HVAC'd and then redone. But that's a costly project.
I bet. When we were talking a few years ago, that was on the docket.
There are other things that sidelined it because other things do come up.
Right.
And so we're into re-roofing now. So we're trying to raise $100,000 for re-roofing.
Right.
But we got the HVAC in, and I mean we're slow about it, but we're moving along.
Well, and you're moving along with only volunteers, right? Is there any state paid staff?
Well, our operations manager is our only paid staff, and we don't pay him much.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I do want to point that out.
Okay.
And it's worth every penny.
Yes. All right. And is he the one sitting in the corner?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So that's how you got involved. Was your father military or?
No, well, he served in World War II.
Okay. All right.
But no, we're not really a military family, but they've served.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. So you always have events. Part of the events is obviously to raise money for the Armory, to keep it floating and to make all these changes.
But just for operations are $75,000 a year.
Right.
Okay. So just that.
Yes. Yeah. That's that of itself. Yeah. It takes a lot of fundraising to keep things going. So you have had over the years, 4 years running, the
Armory Show, we call it. The Armory Show. It's crafts, antiques, and authors.
Okay.
And I'm looking at one now.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'll be there. I'll be there with my books in hand. There it is. Rhode Island author, Harriet Goodman Grayson. That's me. That's me. I'll be there with you, with your books and stuff.
Yes,
Now,
and we'll have a table for the Armory where we're trying to get rid of some things, because when people donate things, if there are duplicates, we tell them it's a duplicate. Now, do you want us to have it? If we have it, we'll probably want to sell it to make some money for the Armory if it's a duplicate. or something, you know, things like that.
Right, right.
Or one fellow, he's cleaning out his house. He brought us all these brand new golf balls in boxes. So we're going to sell. He said, I said, can we sell them? She said, sure. He wanted to get rid of them, you know.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So if there are people listening who have things in their cellar that they might want to get rid of that is in good condition,
Yes.
should they actually call you to ask you? Or?
Well, no, generally
okay.
no. But I mean, people can, smaller things. We don't want, you know, toaster ovens and that sort of thing. So. But
small items.
But yeah, we will sell those on behalf of the Armory. So we'll have an Armory table. But we are loaded this year. I think we have 34 vendors this year. You're being one of them.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I think it will be fun. We try to, with the crafters, we try to make sure there's not more than 2 jewelry people, 1 candle person, if at all, that sort of thing, just to kind of limit what it is. We've got one fellow is coming in. He lives in Narragansett, and he's all excited. He has a brand new business selling dog treats that are human. You know, that we could eat them.
Right.
That's the amazing thing. And he has a few dog accessories too. Now that's unusual because that's more of a business. He's not quite a crafter, but we let him in because he's Narragansett and we're local, and so we snuck him in. But he's excellent. This stuff sells, I guess, very well. Once people have it, they really want it. But we've got all kinds of things coming. We've even got some people doing work with the printers, you know, the new printers that aren't really printers. That
3D printers?
3D printers,
yeah,
we got some 3D stuff coming. So.
Oh, interesting. So how do people actually have, are you still looking for vendors or is it too late?
No, remember we just turned one away before we came over today.
Okay,
yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so how do you make the choice in terms of what do you have some kind of rules? Or?
Well, we ask for pictures of what they're doing, and then if let's say we already took in 2 jewelry people that we like, and a 3rd jewelry person wants in. I mean, I suppose if we didn't have anybody else, we'd consider it. Really, we don't want to compete with it too much.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But yeah, we try to let in 10 authors, maybe 12. I think this year we've got the 12. And then we've got some good antique people. We've got one military antique person coming this year. He's coming from Woonsocket.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a drive.
Oh, well, come on, this is Rhode Island. It's not like going to Montana.
It is. But then we have another 2 general antiques. I think we've got at least 3 antique dealers, which is very good.
Right.
There's one that's come every year. This will be her 4th year with us. And she has a good variety of things. So I always end up getting something.
What made you think about having a craft show like 4 years ago? What were you thinking in terms of something to do?
The Armory ran, when I was younger, I went to the antique shows at the Munsell's. The Munsell's were from Westerly. They had Munsell's Market down on Margin Street. And they ran a beautiful show. I mean, the antiques were beautiful. And that's where I learned antiques, because I was very young. I went to the Armory, and there they were. So I thought it would be nice to have a show, but you know, it's very hard these days to get antique dealers to do shows because that's a lot of work, hauling, as you might imagine. And now they do the multi-dealer places, you know, so that they don't even have to babysit the thing all the time. They only have to do some of the time. So. So I thought, well, let's mix it up. I mean, we can have some crafts. We can have some authors. I'm in the Association of Rhode Island Authors. So they've done shows. I've done shows for them. I'm the only one with games there, so I do very well.
No, and we should mention that it's not like you're putting it in your pocket. You're actually the money that comes in is donated back to the Armory.
It goes to the Armory. I try to cover my printing costs, that sort of thing, but because we do it all with a local Rhode Island printer and so forth, and that's the good news there. But yeah, it goes to the Armory. We've raised a lot of money because we've sold thousands of these things. So. And
you don't have to be someone from Rhode Island to enjoy either the books or the games, because the games are just good thing to have, and it's about Rhode Island.
I would advise you. Yeah, we have them on our website, westerlyarmory.com. But yeah, some are meant more for Rhode Islanders, if you know what I mean, because there's all that
Rhode Island
Yeah,
history.
we have our things there, but there are some like Roadblock, which is that little card game there in the very first. See the card game in the very.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me grab that. Yeah. Yes. Can you grab that?
I certainly can.
Okay.
Here we are. Here we are. I don't know if we
Excellent.
can see it, too small.
Yeah, it's
but,
cute.
yes,
It plays like
Roadblock.
Crazy Eights.
Yes, unique Rhode Island card game.
Now on the back it says instead of having kings and queens and jacks and tens and nines, it has what? Theaters and
Beaches, sports, colleges, museums, historic homes, armories, foods, parks, unique state symbols, and events. So this is a fun thing.
fabulous.
Yes, and of course, it's a good thing just for anyone. Now, you don't have to be, Rhode Island is...
And kids can play that because it's not a
Yes.
hard card game. It's not meant to be hard. Yeah.
Yes,
so there are
definitely.
things like that that are for out-of-staters as well as in-staters. I usually recommend them. If you go on our website, I even recommend, I talk a little bit about each of the games, each of the books. And you can kind of tell which ones are made. But we get a ton of requests from Florida.
Oh, because they've all left.
All the Rhode Islanders are down there, and they have Rhode Island nights.
Oh my gosh,
And
okay.
you should hear, it's funny, some of the stories are great.
That is wonderful. So how do people find out about all your stuff?
Well, you can go to westerlyarmory.com and click on Rhodey Books and Games. And so they can order online if they want to. They're in 20 stores in Rhode Island. And they're, you can call me, I'll ship them out for you.
Okay.
But it's easy to get.
That's
so.
wonderful. That's what started you on doing these kinds of things?
Well, I do presentations too. I have 12 presentations on Rhode Island, which took me around the country as well, because my first major Rhode Island speech was for Rhode Island Independence Day. I was asked to give the address at the State House. I don't know who thought of asking me. I really don't. I think it was General Valenti, but it doesn't matter. So I thought, well, I had been to those, and you get people like Dr. Patrick Conley, who is just such an excellent historian. He's the Rhode Island State Historian Laureate. He was there the year before me, and he talked about, Rhode Island independence. And I thought, wow, well, I'm not an historian. What am I going to do?
Oh.
So I thought, well, okay. So I started with a couple of paragraphs, general, about Rhode Island's independence. Then I moved to what Rhode Island has become since. Its firsts, its bests, its uniques. And it went over like gangbusters. People loved it. And so the governor had me in. It was Don Carcieri at the time, Governor Carcieri. And he said, I'd like to speak to you. He said, I'd like you to do something with that. He said, that was, just amazing about Rhode Island. So I came out with a book called The Right to Crow. And it's sold almost 20,000 copies. So
That's pretty good.
for a Rhode Island book.
You're not kidding. Sure, definitely.
Sold only in Rhode Island. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Is there so your speaking tours take you around the country? I mean, where do you speak and what do you speak on?
I do. I compare. Well, for the state and national conferences, if they're out of state, I will do Little Rhodey and the other 49. I compare Rhode Island to the other 49 states. And that's a lot of fun because everybody comes out looking good.
All right.
It's like a tour around the country, and I do it with slides.
Okay.
So you just have nothing but beautiful pictures of the United States. And it's a joy. It's like you went on vacation for, 40 minutes or so. I did that for the National Conference of Secretaries of State, and they invited me, some of them, to their states. So I set up this whole thing. So, I did 5 in Montana. I did 4 in Arkansas.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just...
You become well-known all over the country.
But I don't think I'm well-known, but I do I do think I got a few words out about Rhode Island to people who might not have. But the surprising thing was, in Montana, a lot of people had been to Rhode Island.
Oh.
Which I was impressed with.
Yes.
I thought, wow, this is amazing.
Well, they went from a big state to a little tiny state.
It was amazing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and in California, in Los Angeles, I was at a Rotary meeting doing the presentation, and a lot of them had been to the War College, to Brown University, and so on. It was amazing, the connections.
That's really
Rhode
fascinating.
Island really reaches out sometimes.
So how do you advertise yourself? Do you have your own speaking tour?
No, I'm not good at any of that.
Okay, all right.
No, I'm not. We do the best we can. It's hard. It's hard these days because in the old days, you know, you had your newspapers and your radio stations and so forth. And you know, years ago, when WPRO would have me on, Dan York, Buddy Cienci, and people like that would have me on. And it was a good way to get it out, you know, and it still is to a point, but it's limited now because younger people are more into everything from Instagram and you know, TikTok and that sort of thing.
That's not part of what you know how to do, right?
Yeah, I suppose, you know, it's probably would be good to learn it. It's just that sometimes I don't have the time to do it, you know, because you really want to start young. I think younger people do better with it because they don't know anything else. You know, you're moving into it.
This is it, right.
It's like we moved from typing to word processing. And I remember thinking, what's the difference? You're still typing. But then I realized, well, you don't have to erase or, you know, can back up.
And then it's gotten even more
and
more,
now, yes.
Yeah, more and more sophisticated.
And now it knows what you're thinking in advance.
Exactly, a little AI on your phone. Absolutely, for your
Amazing.
for your text messages.
Frightening too.
Yes, that's right indeed. Now, what's your background in terms of you know, where you went to school and things like that?
I'm a graduate of the University of Rhode Island, and I have my master's there. And then I did some courses at University of Edinburgh, Scotland, and one at Oxford University. And I've attended 3 of the war colleges for their national strategy forums. So I have a reasonable background in terms of variety, you know, and it's
Absolutely.
It's been fun. I've learned a lot from all those people at the various places I've been. They've taught me more than I can tell you. It's the most impressive people. And the war colleges are amazing.
And you've been a teacher too, haven't you?
I taught 47 years at CCRI in Warwick. I taught technical writing and oral communications, and it was a joy. And people don't realize the quality of the people that go through there. Yes, there are people that don't belong there, but that's part of the open door policy. They get a chance, and they don't use it well or wisely, then they've lost it. We get people who started there, and especially young men, and they'll come back a couple of years later. They're a little bit more mature, and they sail. They do well.
Right.
They
so
do
this
well.
is the community college.
Yes.
And there is, I believe, some kind of branch in Westerly in that education center.
Yeah, they're connected. They're more connected to Electric Boat, I think.
For some
yeah.
workforce training and stuff.
Right.
But there's also a little satellite.
Which is excellent, yeah.
Yeah, satellite office of the college.
But CCRI has 4, not counting that Westerly, which they don't call it CCRI. CCRI has 4 branches anyhow, 4 campuses. So
now, they did pass in the legislature that community college was something that we all, as being Rhode Island residents, could attend community college. Is that correct?
You mean free? Or?
Yes. Yes.
I think there's a certain age group, and there's a certain for the younger people. I thought it was, and I haven't followed it because I've been retired and sort of moved on from that. But I thought that was that you had to have a certain grade point average in high school.
Well, that makes sense. Yes, but it was one of the first states to open up free public education
some free, right.
on a higher level to the residents, because with the knowledge that it's become more and more difficult to just graduate from high school and find a good job. It just, unfortunately, the times have changed. And there are corporations who have programs like Electric Boat, which is an old idea that's finally come back, where they actually train people for what they need. Once upon a time, it was completely up to the individual. Now, thankfully, there's something more organized so that somebody has a place to go after they go to high school. And in some cases...
Well, a lot of them, yeah, and it's an affordability thing. They could have been accepted at Harvard, but they can't afford it. So they'll go 2 years and then they can transfer, or they can go a year and maybe save money. We have a lot of transfers. The engineering students I had, most of them, almost all of them transferred to 4-year colleges after, but they did 2 years. It's less expensive. It might have been in recent years free. When I was there, it wasn't, because I retired about 6 years ago. But it was very inexpensive, and they could go there for 2 years and and they'd actually have a degree, an associate's degree, and then they could go on to 4-year, which I still hear from some of the engineers who, who've used the technical writing and so forth, and good to hear from. One of them is a pharmacist in Warwick. He's my pharmacist now. So I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, there is that recognition that this is important, and sometimes it takes an 18-year-old really doesn't know what they really want to do in life, and so maybe
Especially,
they need
yes,
a couple
young
of years
men.
of knocking around, and then maybe they're 20, they're 21, and then they say, oh, I got to get serious with my life, and I'll go back to school and do my very best.
Right. No, it's a wonderful opportunity, because if let's say they fail the first time, some people, they need to mature, they need to work. Most of my students at CCRI worked as well. I mean, I really admired that. And then if I taught nights classes, those people would come in from working 8 hours, and they had families. They were married, they had families.
Right.
And they would come really
Dedicated.
a credit, really dedicated.
Yes.
And they were some of my best students.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Impressive.
It is. It is very much so. So let's go back to the Armory, which is that beautiful building on the cross area there in Westerly near the train station, right? Is that how you describe the how to get there? And of course, the cannon is out there in front, which is you're right. It looks like not a inviting a place to come.
We'll shoot you if you come.
Yeah, exactly. We were up on the top there with our guns pointed. So it does look a little intimidating, but it is.
Well, you see, you can't look in the windows either because it's too high.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then you walk up those steps, and then when you walk inside,
it's beautiful.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and you have the pictures and the costumes and the
We have wedding gowns.
Unbelievable kinds of
Jean
stuff.
Stenhouse was just in. We have her wedding gown. We just put up for 1960, and it's gorgeous. It's very plain, which makes it lovely. And she has this beautiful mantilla. So we put it. It's on a mannequin. So it looks splendid. She was very pleased. So, yeah.
And people have sort of show up at the museum and want to donate things.
Well, we don't want them to, they should call first, because at this point we can't take any more broads right now because of there's a space limitation here.
Yes,
it's
yes.
not that we don't want it.
Right.
It's just, So eventually we'll probably trade those off for others. You're going to have to do that over the time. Because, I mean, even the Smithsonian does that.
Right. Sell off what you can
Or put it away and rotate it too.
Right, exactly.
Depending on what it is,
How did people find out that you were even interested in things about Westerly or the military?
Over the years, now this is my 30th year at the Armory, can you believe? So
No.
people have gradually found out, as I say, we need to get some of the younger generations in, because I think once they're in, they'll come back because they really enjoy the museum. They love it, the event venue, it's perfect. Our event venue was amazing because, as you know, for when Westerly celebrated its 350th anniversary, and that was in 2019. Thank goodness, before COVID.
Right, exactly.
That was just gorgeous at the Armory. That event venue was just beautiful. So we were lucky to have a venue that nice.
Yeah, well, it's
big too.
It's a big space, and I guess it's probably one of the largest spaces that the public can actually visit in the whole town. I don't
in
think
the
they-
area, it is. It's the largest space of its
'Cause
kind
how
because it's flat. I mean, you can have a theater, but a theater is different because it's slanted and so
Sure,
on.
of course.
But you can dance there, or you can, have tables for dinner and so forth.
And it's what? How many people can it hold?
Well, officially it says 500. We don't like more than
500, wow.
300, maybe 350 if there are tables and that sort of thing,
Okay.
because it occupies a lot. They had, I think, 250 each night for the,
Anniversary?
the celebration for the 350th,
And you and I met recently at the Armory when something was actually sponsored by Rhode Island Foundation. I'm just
Yes.
curious, how did they land up coming to the Armory, or even finding out
That's
where
a
you
long
are?
story, but
is there a
we
shorter
don't know. We
version?
don't want to. No. Neil knew, who's head of the foundation, Neil Steinberg. knew about the Armory because we had had sort of an interesting time a few years ago, and he remembered that. And so he figured, we better use the Armory. So
Okay. And have you received any money from a place like that, the Rhode Island Foundation?
No, their grants are not. See, what we need a different kind of grant. They do program grants, and we need brick and mortar grants.
Okay, I see.
You see, yeah.
All right, so there's a difference,
But don't forget, like, if you leave money to the foundation, which you can, and they invest that, so which is a very good idea. But let's say you liked pumpkins, and you want to leave the money for to give pumpkins to people who can't afford pumpkins or something, then that money can't be used for anything but pumpkins.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they have little funds within the foundation. I just thought that was a curious place, and I was happy to get there. Nice, big, and free dinner. I mean, it was just
that was good, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was an interesting place where the Armory was actually seen as obviously a community asset, where people knew where to find it, wasn't going to be hidden anywhere, and a diverse group of people showed up for the event, which was kind of interesting. And that's just reflective of some of the things that goes on at the Armory, unexpected kinds of good things that go on in the Armory.
Well, as I say, between the Scouts, we allow rentals for boxing and wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Because Rocky Marciano boxed there.
Oh, at the Armory.
Yes.
Oh, that's an important thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And of course, you have events. Ella Fitzgerald sang there. Her husband was Chick Webb. He led the NBC Orchestra. They'd come in on the train from New York. They performed at the Armory. So
you have an illustrious past.
Yeah, we have all sorts of things there. I find it fascinating what people come up with for events. We've had a plumbing show. I mean, and I thought, wow, plumbing show, this is different, and I guess it was very successful.
So people are interested in using the venue. They can contact you at your email or at your phone.
Yeah, if they go to westerlyarmory.com, it has all the email on it and everything. Or the email is westerlyarmory@aol.com.
Right, or the phone number, is that also useful?
Yes.
401-596-8554. There are all kinds of ways. This is a beautiful place where you could easily have any number of events for, what's the smallest that fits comfortably? 50 to 500?
Well, I mean, it depends on, I mean, it's gargantuan for a small number. So you would take 50, but I think you'd be more comfortable with at least 100. So.
Okay, so there's the perfect size for any one of these. Look at these gorgeous, this was the anniversary of the town?
That was a 350th, yeah.
Yes.
They had the ceilings decorated for that. That's not an inexpensive thing to do, but the woman who does it is incredibly talented. And we keep her card at the Armory because she's done a number of weddings there too. I see, yes. So this is a great, when people do the weddings, they are local people who know about the Armory? Yeah, mostly. We get some local, everything from Charlestown to Narragansett to, we've had some Warwick people. I think the first wedding we ever had there, the people were from Woonsocket. And I don't even know how they knew, because this is back in the 90s, and I thought, but yeah. And they were married outside, and then they walked in for their reception.
Wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was very cool. So what got you interested in this particular Armory? Because you are a native, correct? But you haven't been living here all these years.
No, I haven't. I've lived most of my life in Warwick. Because I was born and raised in Westerly, went to Westerly High School, then went to college, got my job lived up there, so it was easier for me to live in Warwick. And I'm on the Warwick Historical Society, and I enjoy Warwick very much. I think it has 44 miles of coastline. People always associate Warwick with Bald Hill Road.
Okay.
Because it's the shopping capital of Rhode Island.
I got you.
And but I live on the water. I'm on the bay, and it's nice. Salt water is always nice, and Westerly appreciates that. So.
Okay. So you were drawn to here just to go back and fulfill something that you thought was missing?
Well, my folks were still living down here. I suppose that helped, certainly, because I would visit them. my parents are Robert and Claire Mudge, and they, my father was on the school committee, the town council, and so on. He was well known in town. My mother was a teacher at Dunn's Corners Elementary School.
Okay.
So I don't know. I was down. I was doing this and that, but I've always tried to get around Rhode Island a little bit more because I think sometimes we just don't know it. I mean, when I send out a little Christmas, I send out a half page. It's not a newsletter. It's a little different. I'll say maybe a short paragraph about me, and then. And not much, and then I will highlight 2 towns each year and what they should see in each town. I do 2 towns a year, and hopefully people will get out to go see them.
You should be the Rhode Island historian. We should.
Well, no, we already have an historian.
We'll crown you as the second.
No, they put me in the Rhode Island Heritage Hall of Fame last May.
Oh, so where can people see that?
What's that?
Is that someplace where we can go?
No, there is. Yes, it's in East Providence, which means nobody from Westerly.
No, it's too far to go. I mean, if we have to be in the car for 30 minutes, it's
Actually,
way too
they're
far.
Looking for a better home. I think they'd found one in Bristol, which is also too far.
Too far, way too far, way too far. I mean, the parade it may be good, but it's too far.
It is. The Bristol 4th of July parade is amazing. So yeah, we have just. I could spend all day talking about Rhode Island here. That's how good it is. And I'm not that good a talker, actually.
Oh, you're very good at talking.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me what we have.
The Tourism Council should have you on a video promoting all the great places, all the unknown places where people can go and explore Rhode Island.
It's hard to get out the word because people watch different sorts of things. I mean, people are going to watch this program. They're going to watch, they're going to listen to radio and so on. I try to get it out in different ways. So anytime that they highlight me, I'm only kind of glad because when you're young and you first get noticed, it's nice and you feel good. At this point, I'm more interested in getting out the word on what we have, the armories, Rhode Island, and so forth. Now, Connecticut is beautiful, too, and this is not to knock Connecticut. I just know more about Rhode Island, so I stick to that.
Right, you stick to
You can't do everything.
Exactly. So I want to encourage people to explore the Westerly Armory and to do it when they're having this wonderful event in November, because it's an opportunity for you to take a look and see about getting presents for the holidays.
Yes.
There should be goodies for all ages. Children, your stuff is great for children. Older adults can have an opportunity. You said there's 2 jewelers there that are there. So
yes, I mean, you've got jewelry, you got the dog treat person.
Right,
I should have brought the list. It's hard to remember them all.
Yes.
I mean, you got crochet and knitting. You've got beautiful, beautiful things, all handmade. All handmade. We got a wood crafter coming. We've got antiques for those who like antiques.
Sure.
But it's a good mix.
Right.
And the authors are all different too. I mean, you've got novelists. You've got some who are a little racy, and then some who are more into mystery and that sort of thing. We've got the children's authors. So that's a good mix too.
Right, exactly.
Good mix of people.
So I will be there with, I write under a bunch of names, right? So I write under my name. Harriet, Grayson, I do all those grants books. Well, I'll have a few of those, guides to grants writing. And even though the federal government, has changed some of its submission rules, writing a grant has not changed significantly, even if the technology actually has changed.
Yes.
And the government, through the last 2 years, has put forward not millions, but billions in dollars of aid, most of it going to the states, and then from the states is where you, in fact, would get that money. First, for the rescue package from when Biden first came into office, and then most recently from the infrastructure bill that was recently passed by the Congress. So there are, no kidding, billions of dollars available. And I'm sure Rhode Island and the state government has done its diligence and has made some grants available. It's a matter of finding out from your local government what might be going on. And a lot of that money will actually go to private companies or nonprofits. So for the first time in decades, there's a huge amount of money available for organizations across all the states. And I think that it pays for people in local government to be very wise to what's going on and to do everything possible. So you can nag your local officials to find out what they might be doing to bring some money into the town.
It's yeah, because it all comes down to the officials. It's usually, it filters down, and it's the local officials that will make a final decision. And so you always hope that they're aware of the needs of the various organizations.
Sure, they're constituents, so there's that. So I write books about that, and I write books about special events planning. And I think that now that we're coming out of this COVID horrible stuff, and hopefully COVID's not disappeared, but maybe its influence might be lessened. I have a book called The Practical Guide to Events Planning, which is a wonderful opportunity for people who are looking for another career. It's just an opportunity for them to take a look
fabulous.
at it. So that's one book I write under.
I'm getting
Harriet,
that one.
Harriet Grayson. Then I have written a bunch of mysteries under Anastasia Goodman. Yes, that's my Sasha Perloff police detective. So I have those kinds of books, and again, there's tremendous variety. And then under Harriet Goodman Grayson, I use COVID as an author stuck in their house with nothing better to do than to sit on the computer screen and sort of think about what I wanted to do. And usually, I think an author goes back, starts to think about their own life. Now, I'm older than most people, so I've got a lot to reflect back on. And I started to think about going in high school in the 1960s. And as a result of that, I wrote a book called Rockaway Riptides, which is about my coastal community. But more importantly, it's about being a kid growing up in the 60s. And I was a musician. I was a terrible musician, but I was a musician. And every kid wanted to have a garage band. I mean, who was a musician? And the garage band was going to be famous like the Beatles. And we were going to write a couple of songs and become millionaires. And that's part of the stuff that's in the book, because that's part of what, as a youth growing up, that's what I was thinking about. And one of the other terrible things that I think about to this day is that one of my classmates who graduated the year before me came home in a body bag from Vietnam. And that was my first personal introduction to death. And as a kid, you're 16, 17 years old, you think you're immortal. So how could that possibly happen? And so that's kind of stayed with me. And I put that in that book because it was really very important to us as kids growing up. And then starts the protest and the counter-protest. And like my parents thought that the world was coming to an end. I mean, it was just so much chaos that was going on, particularly among students. So yes, that's part of that book. And then I went and I finished that one, and then I went back and started thinking even further back in the family tree. And I wrote a book called The Accidental Gangster, Dutch Schultz and Me. And that is actually about my grandfather, who was a rum runner, a bootlegger for the gangster Dutch Schultz. And he was a fisherman. And they wanted his boats to bring the booze from Canada.
Wow.
And that's how he got involved. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure that he was ever entirely sure why or how Dutch Schultz came to him, but he did know that he was a fisherman and he wanted those boats. And of course, when those gangsters come and talk to you, you can't say no.
No.
And once
Is that called rum running?
Well, rum running was actually the rum from Jamaica.
Right.
The country of Jamaica. But
Right.
this was another form of getting the whiskey from Canada. And some of the gangsters that I write about in the book, like Arnold Rothstein, who's probably unknown to people except for the fact that he was supposedly fixed the 1919 World Series. He used to get scotch from Scotland. This is during Prohibition, when drinking was prohibited.
Right.
We had these people, and they made enormous amount of money. I mean, that's what put organized crime on the map. Crime always existed, but as organized as it was because we had millions and millions of dollars there, and we didn't want to constantly have gangsters killing each other over territory and over this or that. So they actually created a commission which existed well into much more modern years about having gangsters having territories and certain kinds of things that they would particularly specialize in. So that's what I wrote about. My mother had little things that she knew. The family had a parrot, and he was a favorite. My mother just always loved to talk to the parrot. And it's also kind of a love story. My grandparents were, despite the fact my grandmother was a nervous wreck, always afraid that my grandfather was going to get killed at any given moment. They loved one another, and in fact, they died 6 months apart. My mother always said her father died of a broken heart because the woman he loved was gone. So there's a lot of little stuff I've put into it.
How many books have you written?
Oh, 15.
Wow. That's for all the types.
All the types,
Okay.
yes. 15 books under 3 different names.
Wow.
But yes, I've been prolific.
I guess so. Well, you've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I couldn't keep on doing it if I didn't enjoy it. I started out trying to write books to help people. These guidebooks were meant to provide organizations, primarily nonprofit groups, the opportunity to find money and to plan for their, special events. Things that I had learned over the years from the different companies that I had and the different occupations I had. I mean, I learned to be a grants writer because one of my first jobs in Denver, Colorado, was as the emergency services planner for the state of Colorado. I took the job, and then they told me after I had the job that my job was to write the grant to keep the lights on.
Wow. All of a sudden, there you were.
Yes, and I was a kid. I was, like 25 years old, and I figured I took my mother's advice always about life. She said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And one of the first things I learned from writing grants was to find out who the grantors were and who was going to grade my paper. So that's the first thing I did when I was in Denver. I said, I got to meet the federal officers who were involved in deciding who was going to get the money or not. And so I took my mother's words, and that's the first thing I did, was have lunch with these 2 guys. And everybody paid their way, so there was no hint of dirty money or anything. And I just wanted to know, well, what did they expect? What did they want to see in a grant?
Right. It's very helpful to know that.
Yes, and I think to this day...
And that they get to know you so they feel comfortable, too. So.
And the other part of it, especially with government money, was once they give you a grant and you spend it wisely, exactly the way you said you were going to do it, they trust you. And once they trust you, then they will have no doubt about giving you more money to continue the work that you're doing. If you've earned their trust, because they have to give it away. I mean, that's their job. And to some degree, that's true, like things like the Rhode Island Foundation and groups like that. They have to give the money away. They are under IRS requirements that they give away a certain percentage of their assets under management. So it's just a question of finding out, well, what is it they're interested in? And, is it something that you can do or
not?
Or not, and then you don't waste your time and their time.
Right.
So, those are the kinds of things that I learned along the way, and I've been doing it, all those years since my early days in Denver, when in fact it got to be my responsibility. And it's a good thing they didn't tell me that before I got the job, because I had never done I had never done it before. So I am happy to be at your annual event.
Well, November 5th, Saturday. We're doing it Saturday because we did it Sunday for 3 years. So this year we're doing it Saturday.
And you think more people will show up?
Well, yeah, and the Elks will be running a craft show next door to us.
Oh.
So that should draw
more people.
So and they were thinking of doing theirs on Sunday. I said, no, I have some board members that are on the Elk, so I said, try to get them to go Saturday, because both of us will profit from that. The vendors will be pleased to have more turnout.
Yes, that's very good.
Because it's free. We don't charge admission, and ours is indoors, too, so it'll be warmer if it needs to be cool, and if it's hot, we have air conditioning and so on.
I don't think we'll have to worry about the heat, but we might have to worry about the weather. That's very important, because there are still in this day lots of activities that are still being conducted outside, which is you wouldn't want to be outside today. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yesterday? No, the day before, they had Tiverton had a big outdoor thing. and I wondered how it went. I didn't get over to it, but I had planned to go, and I had something come up and couldn't. But you know, with the rain, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the vendors have tents, but even
that's not
tent top doesn't really protect you.
And the last thing is to have books out in the elements. With the wind coming and blowing things around, no.
And the customers don't want to be there either.
No. Indoors is much better. So take a look at some of these things because they'll be back again.
That's an antique. That particular picture is antiques from the antiques dealer. Yeah. So,
yes.
But we have a lot of different craft people. There's a local woman from Westerly who knits, and she did last year was her first year, and she did very, very well. And so she's all excited about this year.
Yes.
So, and of course, she knows a lot of the people in Westerly because she's older and she's lived there all her life. And
there are a bunch of groups out there that do knitting. I mean, they've been established knitting groups, and yeah, definitely.
But she does, some pretty nice things.
And it's a wonderful opportunity to buy holiday gifts from local people. Mm-hmm. And to support local crafters and local authors. It's, very, very important.
And our antiques dealers, too, which I think is fun. I think we're going to have fun this year, especially with the military antiques. You don't get to see some of these things very often. So
yeah.
Should be kind of fun to see.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it, yeah.
Roberta, you are wonderful as a guest. I'm so happy that you came back to tell us about the Armory. The Armory is this fascinating place that people shouldn't be afraid of. They should go there on Monday and Thursdays and take a look, completely free. Take a look, see what's in there. There's the history of Westerly. There's all kinds of other interesting stuff. And it may look intimidating, but it's actually family friendly.
It is. It's very friendly. Once you're in the door, you're all set.
Yes, absolutely. And there's plenty of places to walk around. And are you going to have food at the event? Yes.
We have a snack bar. And so we'll be selling sandwiches and chips and cookies and a lot of homemade things. And we'll probably have some reels grinders, which we'll cut them smaller so that people don't always want a big thing.
Sure,
and,
sure.
As I say, and of course we'll have soda and water and.
Right. So you can basically have a late
we'll have little
breakfast.
Tables where you can sit.
Good. A late breakfast or an early lunch or lunch itself. That's wonderful. So Roberta, wonderful to see you again. I'm going to see you next month. I'll be there. And I want to let my audience know that I am still doing that creative writing class. If you've got some would-be writers out there, please join me. It's completely free at the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, which is right down the street from the Valenti used car lot, right there off of the main street there. Come on down. It's completely free, and we can have some fun on Wednesdays. It's usually at 11 o'clock, and we can talk about work, what kind of work you would like to do, and what kind of things you'd like to write. Well, I thank you for being here, and definitely enjoy the Fall Festival. I expect to see you at the Westerly Armory in November. Please don't disappoint me. This is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer for Community Culture Showcase. Bye-bye.